This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free. He goes to get wide. Edge of the box. For Ole. Yeah! Great goal! What a hit from Ole! It's wide! They've only gone and done it again! Forest back in the lead. Rewarded Gibbs White. Oh, and he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Hello and welcome to this preview edition of Red Side of Trent as we look ahead to Forest's game on Monday night as we make the short trip over to Wolverhampton to play Wolverhampton Wanderers. Delighted to be joined by Luke from Wolves FanCast. So many thanks for joining, Luke. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Thank you for coming on. Obviously, it's been a bit of a turbulent season, I think would be fair to say, for Wolves. Just talk me through because I mean, when we had Dan on in the season, he was quite optimistic and hopeful, like a top 10 finish, and sort of that was like the base aim before a ball was kicked, especially after the form for 3/4 of last season, I'd say. Mm-hmm. What is it that went wrong?
It's Gary O'Neill, mate. It's just terrible. So Dan was right with what he was saying. Top 10 finish. I think and I've been quite vocal about it that the squad of players that we've got shouldn't be kicking around the where we are at the moment. We have got a mid-table squad. I think when you look at other teams that are sort of on our level, like your Bournemouth, Crystal Palaces, with all due respect, sort of Nottingham Forest, that sort of level of club, there's not really much between us. But when you go in sort of squad-wise and player-wise and ability-wise, but it's when you go into the finer details and those little tactical tweaks, just game management. We just had no game management whatsoever. And Gary O'Neill killed us, mate. Absolutely killed us. And that's why we are where we are now. Just because the in-game management from O'Neill was just absolutely shocking.
Yeah, it's weird because I remember when we played you earlier this season, it was it was a wonder goal from Bellegarde basically to sort of level it, and then but Wolves didn't really offer much else, but defended all right. I just remember seeing Gary O'Neill just jumping up and down the touchline like bloody Tigger, but like I just struggle to see, because I mean, you look at the team on paper. I mean, you even recruited quite well. I mean, obviously Andre came in. Like we've got there's a Brazilian correspondent, friend of the pods. He covers South American football called Nathan. He absolutely raves about Andre. Said he's going to be the next Brazilian number 6, etc., etc. It sounded like all these players came in, but he just wasn't playing them. Do you know why that was? Or was just
I mean, like you said, we've got some really good players. I mean, Andre. João Gomez, Matheus Cunha, Strand Larson, Semedo, Ait Nouri. We've actually got some very, very talented players. And they're also players that you enjoy to watch as well. They play the game really, really well. But it's just, under O'Neill, we always made the pitch really, really big. So now, under Pereira, you can see we're a lot more compact. Which allows us to link up easier in transition on counter-attacks. It makes us harder to break down defensively, whereas before the gaps were just way too big, both horizontally and vertically. It was too easy to play through. Set pieces, nobody had a clue what they was doing. He wanted to go for this style of marking, but players were scared to head of the ball, and just the pure basics of on a set piece, make first contact, then deal with the aftermath after that. But none of that was there. We've already conceded. I think we're on 17 goals conceded from set pieces already. 16 of those under O'Neill, 1 under Pereira in 3 games. But when you're looking at numbers like that before Christmas of conceding, you shouldn't even be conceding from 16 set pieces over the course of a season. Never mind before December. And ultimately, that's what cost us. I mean, if you look at the league table now, and you look at goals scored and goals conceded, under O'Neill, we were still scoring goals, but the rate that we was conceding them at was just alarming. And any team worth their salt, if you're conceding goals, you make it very, very difficult to win games of football, and that's what we found ourselves in that position.
No, I did notice the set piece issue sort of reared its head against Spurs. They looked quite dangerous set pieces in that game. Obviously, I think scored from one, didn't they? I think the first goal was Benzema's header, wasn't it? Yeah. But yeah, obviously
for me, that was it was a good set piece. It was a good delivery, good connection on the header. Sometimes you have to hold your hands up and say, you know what, it's just a good set piece. So yeah, you don't. I mean, obviously, you never want to concede a goal, but sometimes the opposition just have a brilliant spell of play, and they'll put one past you. So you can accept that, but what you can't accept is the 16 or probably 75% of the 16 set piece goals we've conceded before. Just piss poor defending, basically, mate.
No, we had similar issue last year. I mean, we conceded 22 goals, I think, across the season from set pieces.
Yeah,
you on 17 already is like, Jesus Christ, like how's that happened? But our solution to that was obviously we signed Milenkovic in the summer. But I know I've seen quite a few people. Jackie Oatley's been quite vocal about this as well. That Wolves didn't sign a defender to replace Kilman, really.
Mm-hmm.
Put a lot of sort of pressure on Craig Dawson. Is that a fair assessment? And obviously one that hasn't quite worked out. But
yeah. So obviously Kilman went, and there's no problem with that. Great bit of business. We've pretty much made £40 million profits on him, and with all due respect to Kilman, he's probably hit his ceiling now as well. So I think we sold at the right time. We had Mosquera come back from a loan at Villarreal, where he did really, really well. But unfortunately, he'd done his cruciate ligaments a couple of games into the season. So we probably won't see him again until probably April at the earliest. And then, the fans, we did want to sign another centre-back anyway, but the club decided to sign a goalkeeper who we don't play in Sam Johnston and Andre. Now, Andre is a fantastic signing. He's a brilliant player, but we probably didn't need to sign another central defensive midfielder at the time. We could have done with a centre half. So I think when you look at it like that, some shortfalls from the board in regards to sort of squad planning and squad management hasn't helped us this season. But I would still say we're not in the position we're in because we didn't sign a centre back in the summer. Even if we had signed a centre back with the style of football that Gary O'Neill had us playing, we still would have struggled anyway.
It's just weird to see how it went so downhill so quickly. Because I know it was weird because obviously for 3 quarters of last season, obviously again Wolves are doing really well. It just seemed like injuries sort of caught up with you at the end, which is fine. That happens. You're on the beach mode. A lot of sort of excuses are made for that sort of slump towards the end of the season. I know a lot of the nerds are sort of saying that O'Neill's numbers weren't sustainable, and I guess that showed this season. But I mean, some of the results are just like bloody awful. I mean,
Coventry killed us. Coventry in that cup quarter final absolutely killed us because we was doing okay up until then. Then after that result, I think we won 2 of the next 23, which is just shocking. I mean, I don't know if you saw on Twitter yesterday, they put the 2024 league table of the whole 92. And I think we were about 84th. But if you would have taken away the 7 points that Pereira's got in the last 3 games, we would have been rock bottom. It tells its own story, doesn't it? Pereira saved us that embarrassment, and that title goes to Carlisle United. Otherwise, we would have been propping up the 92. It was that Coventry result. Since then, absolutely killed us, killed any momentum we had. And since then, it's just been downhill majorly. But I think we're back now. I do. I think.
I was about to say that obviously Pereira started off very well, and obviously you can say what you like about your position you face. And obviously Leicester are poor. Man United's arguably as poor, which is hilarious to see for the rest of the world. And Spurs were just Spurs, didn't they? So, but you still had to you only play what's in front of you, and to get 7 points from those games is still very commendable. So, but what sort of you mentioned you were a lot narrower, more compact now. Apart from that, what other changes have you made? Because he does seem to be a bit more, from what I've seen of him on the touchline and stuff like that, it seems to be quite big with the players. Like I noticed there was that clip, I think when you scored the second goal against United, he was playing it all very low key, and he saw Tommy Doyle run over and he just lost it and went mental. How have you found him so far?
you know, he seems really, really good, and you know, don't want to get too carried away, because it's still very early days. But I like the way he talks, the way he talks in the press. A couple of clips that have come out, the way he talks to the players as well, just seems really, really good. He sort of plays like a 3-4-2-1 formation, but it's quite fluid. And like I said, we just seem a lot more compact now, a lot more harder to break down. We've always been quite good going forward. But one thing that we are utilising more is Strand Larsen. So under O'Neill, you know, we've given him the nickname Stranded Larsen because that's how he looked. Under O'Neill, just stranded up front on his own. You know, we've got a big man who can hold the ball up well, decent in the air, quite physical, similar to Chris Wood. But we just wasn't utilising it at all. It just made no sense whatsoever. But since Pereira's come in, we're utilising Strand Larsen a lot more, which is then helping us build up off of him. So, you know, I wouldn't say there's major changes. He's just made a couple of slight tweaks, but it has made a world of difference.
I like Strand Larsen. He's been a bit of an FPL gem for me this season. He's just like a bit of a throwback classic number 9, isn't he? He's just like big, like handful. Yeah, he's good to see. Yeah. But I suppose the key, the sort of the catalyst, if you like, to Wolves' form. I mean, even if you hadn't watched a single minute of play, I think you'd be able to say it was Matheus Cunha, who just seems to have taken his game this year to another level entirely. Obviously, he's going to be suspended for our game. But I mean, I think it looked like he was going to miss it anyway for injury, which I hope for your sake isn't that serious. But how do you think he's been this season? Like from what you've seen, how does he sort of compare to your sort of favourite Wolves players of years gone by?
He's up there. He's up there. You know, we was having a conversation in the podcast that we do for Wolves, the Wolves FanCast in our WhatsApp group the other day. Is he the best number 10 that has ever played for the club? You know, he really is that good. He's just our talisman. You know, just his technical ability, his tactical knowledge, his physical as well. He's intelligent. He's just a fantastic player. You know, he's a joy to watch. So, latest rumours are that we're going to extend his contract, which will be great for us. So, my guesses are we'll get another 18 months out of him. He'll shine at the World Cup. We'll get a healthy profit for him. He'll go to Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, one of the big six, and then his career will probably stagnate.
It's interesting because I mean he did technically come from a club of that ilk in Atletico.
Yeah.
Where he obviously wasn't the main man. He wasn't like. Whereas it does feel at Wolves, he is, with no disrespect to you, he does feel like he's a big fish in a smaller pond. He seems to really sort of. He seems to thrive off that a lot more. So I do wonder if that might play a part in his thinking. So obviously he signed for pretty big money, didn't you? Was it like 50 million? I think it was.
Yeah,
like
50 million club record fee. At the time, it was like a few eyebrows were raised. Was like, you know, who's this guy? He's not really.
Yeah.
Set the world alight in Spain. He did okay in Germany, but you know, £50 million for a club like us, it's big money. But
massive, yeah.
You know, he's been worth every penny. He really has. He's a joy to watch. He really is.
Definitely, no, he's. I think even as a neutral, I agree. Like Cunha's just. It's like every time you watch match today, it's like, oh, what's Cunha done today for Wolves, sort of thing. So,
you know, he scores some absolute worldies as well. So he's not just sort of a fox in the box. You know, he can swat one from 25, 30 yards, and he really does drive us forward. So, you know, he will drop quite deep. And his ability to carry the ball up the pitch it's just phenomenal. You know, we're really, really fortunate to have him. So, you know, like I said, hopefully we can get another 18 months out of him. And then no doubt he'll leave like all the decent players we have do. But, you know, it's quite similar to Raul, actually, because Raul was at Atletico Madrid for a while and didn't set the world alight there. We signed him and it was like, well, who's this guy we're signing? You know, not really heard of him. And, you know, I suppose everybody knows the history of Raul and what he'd done at the club. So there's a couple of similarities to both players, to be fair.
How do you reckon Pereira will set up without him for our game?
I think he'll set up the same. So how we started the second half against Spurs, so it was Hwang, Larsen, Guedes. So I think that'll be the front three against Forest. But Guedes is another one who deserves a mention.
He's a revival, isn't he? Yeah.
I'll hold my hands up. You know, I've not been his biggest fan since he arrived. I thought he was quite lazy, moody, just never looked interested at all. But since Pereira's come, he's like a different player. You know, his work rate's been absolutely phenomenal.
Looks like the player you actually signed from Valencia to begin with, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because he come with a decent reputation as well.
Yeah, he was a good player, yeah.
You know, I think he's quite well known within the football world. So when we signed him, it was like, Jesus, we've signed a name here. But he was terrible, absolutely terrible, and then couldn't get in the squad. Didn't look like he wanted to be there. Went out on a couple of loans, did okay. Come back, looked like he was going to be out the door. A couple of cameos off the bench for O'Neill, a couple of starts in the cup, where he did actually get a couple of goals and assists. But you know, under Pereira, he's been starting pretty much. Has he started 2 out of 3, I believe? And again, it's like a new signing. It really is. I know it's cliche, but he is like a new signing.
Definitely. I mean, what's the sort of initial reaction to Pereira? Because I mean, when I saw it, like I'll confess, I hadn't heard the bloke. I saw him managing Al Shabab and thought, oh God, what have they done? But what was your sort of take on it once you were sort of initially linked with him? It looked like he was the man being chosen. Because I know there's a few links with Corberan weren't there, which obviously would be very funny from a Wolves perspective, thinking West Ham's manager, and a few others from like just that and around. But what did you sort of make of that sort of the links as and when they sort of came through?
I think it was probably what we needed. We needed to go for the unknown, similar to what we did when we signed Nuno.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the names that was being bandied about, Moyes, no, way too just short term. Potter, yeah, maybe, but I don't think he was ever really interested. And then, you know, you look at some of the other candidates and you're like, there's no one that's really standing out. Corberan from the Albion, like you said, it would have been funny just to see how annoyed they would have been. But again, is he a great coach? No, average. So, yeah, similar to you with Pereira, can't say that I knew much about him before he came. So, you know, you do what you do. You go on their Wikipedia, you look at the stats. And the one thing that stood out to me was his... he concedes on average something like 1.06 goals per game over his career. And that's exactly what we needed at this moment in time with how our defence was. So, you know, a defensive coach, similar to Nuno, probably what we needed. Portuguese speaking. I know obviously everyone thinks that we're Portuguese Wolves, but we've got probably more of a Brazilian influence now than Portuguese. So for them to have somebody who speaks their native language, it's only going to help them. So it's looking like really, really good piece of business. Definitely,
yeah. No, I mean, initial signs look very, very good. I mean, at a time where it couldn't be more critical, really. Either. I mean, I'm looking at the table now, and like, there's only 3 points separating 19th and 16th, which is crazy congested. Are you still? I'm guessing your aim now is first and foremost just survive at any cost, and then sort of look from there.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just having a look at myself. 16, so I was 6 points off Man United in 14th. Yeah, I think this season, if we can get sort of 15th, 16th, brilliant. But the most important number is 17th, really. 17th and above. And I said it on our podcast this week. I mean, I was getting a little bit carried away. But why not push for Europe next season and push for that top 8? Because, you know, I think you can throw a blanket over yourselves, us, Palace, Brentford, Brighton. You know, we can all beat each other on our day. So, you know, we've some smart recruitment in the winter, a bit more smart recruitment in the summer. I'd like to think that we can have a bit more of a positive season than we're going to have this season, because it's pretty much a write-off. I suppose all we can hope for is survival and a bit of a cup run.
No, I mean, I've said that before. So it's very similar to what you've said. Like, I don't think that even if you look on paper, let's say the top 7, if you include Newcastle in that top 7, well, maybe 8, including Villa. So say 9th to 17th. There's not a great deal in it. Like you said, teams can beat each other this other day. Like, it's almost a bit like championship-like, isn't it? Where it's sort of like you can't really predict. Like, you normally just go with the home side because you fancy home advantage. But
yeah.
Which is good. It's good for the league in a sense, because obviously it doesn't mean if anyone does slip up, you get a situation where we're in now, which is quite bizarre. But obviously, I've got to ask, what have you made of Forest so far this season? Obviously, that game, the one I was drawing a long time ago, but have you been a bit surprised at how we're doing? Are you surprised as we are, for example? What have you made of things?
Yeah, do you know what? It's fair play to you, because the thing with Forest, I know obviously you've got your rivalries in football and whatnot, but you're just a traditional club, very similar to us in terms of fan base, history. Okay, yeah, you've won European Cup, but I see a lot of similarities between the two clubs. And for me personally, I think it's great when clubs like your Forests and your Wolves and clubs of that level overachieve, have fantastic seasons. Very, very surprised, very, very surprised that you've kept it up until Christmas, but fair play to you. And I honestly hope that you do get into Europe. The history that you've got as a club in Europe, it'd be good to sort of break that monopoly, get rid of your Man Uniteds, get rid of your Tottenhams, your Chelseas, Man Cities, get rid of them and replace them with Forest, your Wolves, your Evertons, and whoever else. But no, you're doing well. Very surprised, even with what I know about Nuno and what Nuno achieved with us in getting us to Europe. Definitely the surprise story of the season, 100%.
I was going to say, like, do you see any similarities between that Nuno's Wolves team and what we're going through now? Obviously, we've got big target striker man, and obviously Chris Wood and Jimenez. The goals are sort of very tough to break down. Sort of a lot of tactical flexibility and loose. Are you sort of seeing parallels to what you sort of
It's the Nuno way. You're probably most matches you're ending with between 36 and 44% possession, hitting teams on the counter attack. It's the Nuno way, and you know what? Fair play to him. The only issue that I had with Nuno during his time at Wolves was sometimes you could see that he just didn't want to let go of the handbrake. And I don't know if you've noticed that at Forest. I mean, probably not so much this season because you're flying, but just at times where you're like, come on, let's go for the kill here, or the team you're playing look a little bit vulnerable, just release the handbrake, let it go. And I just felt at times he was reluctant to do that. And I did feel like it held us back a bit, but I've got so much time and respect for Nuno and what he did at Wolves. He's a legend at the club. He really is. And it's good to see him doing well again. Obviously, he went to Tottenham, didn't quite work there, but I think Jesus Christ himself couldn't save that club. So it is what it is with Tottenham, isn't it? But it's great to see that he's gone to a club, a similar ilk to Wolves, and he's showing that it wasn't a fluke what he did with us.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think it's just like it's a magic carpet ride. I don't really want it to stop. Really, I think he has seemed like. I think that spell at Spurs and even in Saudi has probably helped him quite a lot because we haven't noticed it too much. The only things that we've noticed have been more like he has not quite got. So, for example, when we lost 3-1 away at home to Newcastle, and we were just doing the same thing over and over again, even though we were losing, and then the same thing was happening. But he didn't really have another option off the bench to change things. So it was frustrating, but equally, the hand was dealt, so he did the best he could. No, it'd be interesting to see how things go moving forward. But it's just been a wonderful ride. But obviously, going back to Wolves and Pereira, I mean, I know it's obviously very early to say, but from what you've seen so far, what sort of weaknesses do you think Wolves are currently might have that Forest could look to expose, or vice versa? What sort of strengths where do you see Wolves getting any joy against Forest on Monday night?
I'll say the weaknesses, set pieces. Obviously, I know we've only conceded one in our last 3, which is for us that's amazing. But them vulnerabilities are not just going to go overnight. It's still the same players that are defending the set pieces. Jose Sarr in goal, erratic as anything. You don't know what you're going to get. He's either going to give us a 9 out of 10 superhuman performance, or he'll give us a 3 out of 10, and he'll try and take on 2 or 3 attackers and lose a ball. Dawson at the back, reaching the end of his career now. I do think he's lost that half a yard as well, and you can see you know, when you see it in a player and you start to feel a little bit sorry for them. So he's reaching that stage now. But apart from that, mate, we're absolutely fucking brilliant. But yeah, so I'd say that those are our weaknesses. Obviously, Cunha's not going to be available, so it's a massive blow. You know, I can't even sugarcoat around that. It's a massive blow. We're going to miss him, but thankfully it's only for 2 games, and it looked like he was going to be injured for both of them anyway.
So it's worked out pretty well for you, yeah.
Yeah, no, it has. It's, you know, I can't complain at that. I was thinking a tight little 4 or 5 game ban was going to come in after what he did. But
yeah, when I saw that elbow, I was like, he ain't seeing he's seeing football till like March, and then 2 games.
I don't know what went through his head, but it has been good on Twitter to see Ipswich Town fans in a complete meltdown over it. It's borderline embarrassing. So hopefully they get relegated now. But yeah, so our weaknesses, Sarr, depending which Sarr turns up, Dawson's aging legs, set pieces, and the loss of Cunha.
No, I mean, I'm really intrigued to see the battle between Milenkovic and Strand Larsen, because they're both very big, powerful like blokes, and seeing them 2 going out, that could be a really good battle on Monday. So I'm looking forward to that. But just before I let you go, what score prediction? What's your score prediction for Monday? Yeah.
So I've just been looking at the previous results, and it looks like we've drew a hell of a lot of our.
I think it's like, was it 4 draws and a win? I think for Wolves, and a 5 meetings we've had or something silly. Yeah.
So I'm going to sit on the fence. Let's have a look at home. 1-1-0. 1-1-0. Oh, to be fair, we've not lost at home to you since.
That's 2012, 13.
Since like forever.
Yeah. Actually, no, I think we won 2014, 15, I think. We won 3-0. Lansbury scored. I think that's probably the last time. Could be wrong.
Oh, yeah, you did. 3-0. 22nd of November 2014.
Yeah.
I am going to go. We are going to absolutely derail your season. And we're going to beat you 2-1.
2-1. All right, interesting. We'll have to see what happens in that one. But it's good to see you. Some prediction? My score prediction, I reckon we'll win 1-0, personally. But it's good to see you got a bit of positivity about you again, that prayers give you that. Because I reckon had we asked that question about a month ago, it would be a very different answer.
Ready to end it all only 2 weeks ago. Honest to God, the difference in the city since Pereira's come in is monumental. Honestly, we've come out of our depression now. We've come out of depression. Things are looking good again. I'm starting up so a quick plug. I'm starting up a passport dusting service, because we've got a lot of passports that need dusting for next season, because we are in Europe next season, mate. I can feel it.
It's good to see you got your bounce back anyway. And obviously, I wish you all the luck for the rest of the season beyond Monday, of course. But many thanks for coming on, Luke. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
As for us, we'll be back with our review on Tuesday. Obviously, it's Monday night, things are a bit weird. So look out for that. But up until then, enjoy your weekends, watch the rest of the football, and hope teams around us lose. And yeah,